I'm back.
You're back. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you let's do a second introduction. People don't know this, but we just did one and it was awesome. So if this is not as awesome as the previous one, it still counts, okay? Go for
All
it.
right. Well, yeah, I'm Tyler, co-host, co-owner, founder of the Anti-Hero Broadcast. I did about 5 years in the United States Army, infantryman, paratrooper, went to Baghdad in '08, did a deployment there, got out. I was a street cop in Florida for about 9 years and realized that our communities didn't have a voice to 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 talk about issues in our cultures, and there was really no community. Period. So we decided to create the broadcast because the only thing that the military seems to have is a bunch of special forces guys and Navy SEALs arguing and bickering all the time and telling regurgitated stories over and over and over again. So we kind of realized that the veterans, the 99% of our U.S. military, needed more of a community where we could go and talk crazy stories, funny stories, tragic stories, heroic stories. It doesn't matter as long as we have a community to do that. And so that's essentially why I formed this broadcast about 3 years ago.
That's awesome. And what I like about you guys is you are not afraid to criticize the special forces. It's like, in America, they are put on a pedestal for absolutely no reason, quite honestly, no reason. And we'll discuss this.
Um, it's something that I've come to realize is that to be successful in that career field, you have to be somewhat of a narcissistic sociopath. You really do.
You
To
have to.
be the best person ever in anything and everything you do, you have to have those qualities. So they get out, and then I've noticed a lot of them don't act as teammates anymore. They act as
They hate each other.
sole, yeah, and they
Yeah.
only care about themselves. They only
Yes.
care about themselves.
That's very true. But I agree with you, but I'll push back just a little bit. It was not always like that. So if you take John Stockwell and these like legendary, former CIA peeps or whistleblowers in the Navy, they used to be good guys. They didn't have to be psychopathic, but system changed and their training is part of it too, like the training in the environment. It's more sociopathic. Even Dan Crenshaw's generation or generation before that, you'll find a lot of lost kids who had nothing else to do but to join them, and that's it, like
Yep.
mommy problems, daddy problems, that kind of stuff, right?
Well, I mean, I can speak to that a little bit. I mean, my father, I grew up at Fort Bragg. My dad was in special operations for the entire time that I was there. I grew up around Green Berets and dudes that
Mm-hmm.
were out there at the unit.
Right.
And it was absolutely a quiet professional. We don't talk about this. We don't broadcast this. We're not here to write books.
So true.
We're not here to do any of that stuff. And that was the 90s when I was there. And somehow along the way, it got lost in the soft community. And I mean, I've been hearing that my entire life. So,
Right, introduce yourself. We didn't do the
okay.
introduction.
Oh yeah. So I'm James Arnett. I'm another co-host of the Anti-Hero broadcast. I spent 10 years in the Army. I was a sniper while I was in. I did 2 deployments to Iraq. When I got out, I became a military contractor for the Department of State. I did more deployments with them over to Iraq and Afghanistan. And I met Tyler through mutual friends, and I became the intellectual research current events guy. I think that's about
Awesome.
fair
And
enough.
Best co-host ever.
Except for Mike.
we're going to dive into that and we'll touch on Delta Force, CIA, all that kind of stuff later. But let's start with ICE because this is a
Mhm.
hot topic right now, right? And I know you guys had a show about it. I did get a chance to listen to like bits and pieces of it. But okay, I'm going to start with this. I think most Americans are on board when we say we need to deport people who are illegally here. And
Yes.
it's just breaking the law and it's not nice and it's illegal and all that. It also hurts American people. You can't control illegal immigrants, especially the ones who already had criminal records in their country and run here. We know what the problem is. Now, is the approach the right way that Trump administration kind of rolled out there? Probably not. And I hear I hear both sides. We'll dive into it, but let's specifically talk about this incident that happened in Minneapolis. An American citizen got shot. Her name was Renee Nicole Good, 37 years old, and I watched that video at least 20 plus times, and I'm convinced that the only party to blame here is the ICE officer and the government in a way. Because, the buck stops with you. Your officers are not conducting a professional operation when you had multiple cases of them exercising power in a wrong way. Maybe it's time to chime in and say, if you're not careful, if you're not a professional when you go out there, you're going to lose your job. Instead, what we tell them is, go get them, guys. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Enough of this bullshit.
I'm just going to say, that's why the importance of local law enforcement is key in things like this. And unfortunately, we will disagree. I do not place blame on the ICE agent as much as I place blame on the chief of police in Minneapolis. And the reason why is because he got political and decided to join the mayor and the governor and say, we will not work with ICE no matter what. If you force the hand, conflict's coming your way. If they had worked with ICE, just like every local department has a task force, a federal agent in charge of about 12 dudes, and they know the area, they know the people, they know the laws. Any local cop will tell you, you cannot create your own exigent circumstance. You cannot step in front of a vehicle. And if you are in fear for your life, step one is to get out of the way of that vehicle. Every
Right.
local cop knows, every local law enforcement, real
Right.
street cops know you cannot fire into a car unless you are in an alley and you cannot step left or you cannot step right. Because when you fire into that car, as we saw in that video, that car's trajectory is going to keep going. So the argument that I was stopping that car from hitting me by shooting at the driver is now moot because it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
It's nonsense. Absolutely. I
That
love
ICE
that
agent,
take. Yeah, I agree.
we talked about it this morning. That ICE agent, unfortunately, probably had no training in the streets whatsoever. Maybe a little
Yep.
bit, but we talked about the Biden administration. They were benched. Like on the other side of the aisle, I think, yes, like you're saying, they're probably overused right now, but they were very underutilized. They should have been out there
So
doing
true.
investigations while they were, if there's undocumented people in here that are illegal aliens, they should have been conducting field investigations, and then they should have been working in conjunction with local law enforcement to go and make suitable apprehensions that aren't so
Absolutely.
brunt, I
Yeah.
guess.
I mean,
Yeah.
and again, I was not a street cop, but I've listened to these guys enough to know that, like, if local law enforcement had been there to do things like, hey, we've got to deal with crowd control. Hey, we've got stuff going on with protesters. That should have been the realm of local law enforcement. And the reason why we see an overuse of force is because local law enforcement wasn't there. So your point was, you think it was an overuse of force by the ICE agent. And our point of view is it was the PD should have been there to prevent that from happening in the first place. Did I say that well enough?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, how many times have I been out on foot with somebody telling them to stop, they're detained, and they
Yeah.
get away from me.
Absolutely.
That happens all the time.
Absolutely.
The average street cop is going to have cars run from them, whether they're in their car themselves or they're on foot. Cars run all the time. They're trying to evade you. They are not trying to hit you 99.9% of the time. They're trying to
100%.
get out of custody. So street
Yep.
cops would have had that. No gun would have been pulled. Maybe if it was pulled, sometimes we know that is a step in the use of force matrix for cops. Showing your gun is like step 7 out of 8, which is lethal force.
Right.
It is a step, but it doesn't really mean you have the authority to use it.
Exactly.
It's a step. And
It's just the scare tactics. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And then what pissed me off, you had JD Vance and Trump come out, and instead of, standing with their people, they went with the narrative, oh, like poor ICE agent got hit by a car, got dragged by a car. I mean, the lies they made up, it's crazy. It's obvious. We all have eyes that he was not even hurt. Period. He was not even hurt. What happened is he panicked. He simply panicked and he drew his gun. And guess what? If you look at the video, if he had time to draw his gun and shoot her twice, he probably had time to step away from the vehicle. Okay, so if that argument that he had no time and his life was in danger is absolute bullshit. Just American people will appreciate it more if you just told them the truth. If you came out and said, listen, ICE is a good force. Yeah, their mistakes are going to happen. It happens, and this particular individual absolutely misused his power and got, whatever you want to say, but do not defend a murder. Like, it's crazy.
Well, let me ask you this. As police officers, we are told there's no political side. We are for the people. We are not
Right.
left. We are not right. Aside from individuality out of the uniform, that's fine. But we don't lean one way or the other. Could you blame the leftist media of the United States of America for convincing, what's her name? I'm not trying to be disrespectful. What's the lady's name that passed away?
Oh, you mean Renee?
Renee.
Yeah.
Could you blame the leftist media for convincing Renee that she could defy lawful orders from law enforcement? Because
Yeah,
she was convinced of that.
I blame all media. I'll take it
Yes.
even farther. I blame all media. But
Okay.
guess what? You're always going to have civilians who are propagandized, who are going to be hostile. She was not hostile. She was just, she was trying to do something that
Trying to
was
get away.
yeah, exactly. But you will always have that. This is why you are a professional. This is why you're called an agent, trained agent. She's not a trained agent. You are a trained agent. You should be able to handle such situations. And if you can't handle it, then you should be fired. Very simple.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest with you, I mean, just to give it some context, they're not street cops. They're not guys out there on the road walking around, meeting the community, engaging the community. They're
Then you
deployed
have
to
a
that area.
failed system.
For right, wrong, or indifferent, and we've talked about this too. I don't like the idea of federal agents enforcing federal law inside the cities. I believe that is a local law enforcement, local
agree.
politician that is decided by the people. I really don't know where the line is drawn for me, but I will say that chiefs of police not working with the federal investigation and the federal effort to do the job that they need to do, I don't think that's the right answer either, because what happens is that you force conflict. You're going to force conflict when you could be the liaison between the community and whatever the feds want. You can't just sit there and say, we will not work with big, bad, evil Trump. We will not work with this, because at the end of the day, we just agreed it is an epidemic of illegal aliens in our country. So it has to be handled. How do we handle it? Not the way we're handling it now.
I agree. And again, like I think the system failed American people big time. And another part of it is also, yeah, you might not like this, but this is coming from a daughter of a lead detective in force. So I'm not very far away from law enforcement. And I have to say, American police is a hostile force too. And, it is. And it's not that they are trying to be. I feel like it's just somehow it ends up being that because maybe the system is not there for me, training is not there for them. I don't know. But most Americans don't have a perspective of other countries and how, other countries are set up. And I was born in Eastern Europe, in Georgia, where we actually loved police. American police is hated in America. Police is hated. I talk to officers all the time and they are like, well, people don't like us. Well, I wonder why. Maybe because many of the police officers are actually misusing their power.
I think that American police are actually, can I say the word pussified?
Yeah.
I mean, they are. American cops are not what they need to be. That's why I'm not in the profession anymore.
What
First
do they
off,
need to be then? What do they
they
need to
need
be?
to
Why don't you?
they need to be. It's going to take. I don't know if there's ever coming back from it. Ever since Trayvon Martin in 2014, 2014. Not necessarily tied into law enforcement, but that's what started this whole political movement to start rage baiting races against each other. Then
Yeah.
it became black versus white, and then it became
Yeah.
black versus American police, and then it became everybody against. that,
Yeah,
then
George
Eric Brown,
Floyd, all
Eric
that
Garner.
bullshit. Yeah, yeah, I agree
Yeah,
with you on that.
yeah.
But
And so
I would just add something. They're pussified in the matter of what they are allowed to do or not allowed to do. But attitude is completely different thing. I'm talking about something else here. So, for example, to me, American police is useless if somebody robs my house. Like if they are useless. I can call them, but they will do absolutely nothing. So let's say someone took away like something, they can't even get in the freaking house. So that's not the case in Europe. Like it's very different. So I trust
how so?
European. Well, in Georgia, you can call up Georgian police and say like, hey, somebody took my laptop and they're in their house. They will break down the door and they will get your laptop if they
Well,
know
we
for a
have this
fact.
thing called constitutional rights, and you're not allowed to do
No,
that.
no, no. Constitutional rights. Well, it's your also your right to reclaim what's yours.
It
So
is, but you have to. Law enforcement has to get a warrant based off probable cause.
yeah. Oh, of course. I mean,
If I went in
of
and kicked
course.
every door in of people that thought that items were stolen or
See,
a crime was
that's the
committed.
bureaucracy. See, that's where we come in when Georgia is only 3 million and America is a huge country. So I would
Yeah,
agree with that, but that's also partially the problem, right? Because
well,
if you approach a New York cop just for a question, you're gonna get a hostile behavior back. And I asked that. I've had this conversation with NYPD detective, and he was like, "Well, Elizabeth, you have to understand, they get approached like gazillion times a day. Like that's why you get the hostile answer. Well, how is that my problem as a citizen? You know,
Well,
how is that my problem?"
the other issue that you're not addressing at all is
Mm-hmm.
the way that law enforcement gets used by the political entities that are in control of them. So
100%.
so if you
Now
have
you're at the root of the problem. I
yeah,
agree with that.
the real problem that you have is you have officers hired specifically for a specific task. We saw this during COVID.
Yeah.
Okay. They were brought in to do a specific job and enforce a political will rather than, I mean, you see it even down to the number of tickets that get written and where they get written at.
Yeah.
These are problems that are not on the average street cop who joined the job because he wanted to chase bad guys and go get your laptop back. But he's being told that he has to enforce this political will.
100%.
That is not the problem of the individual officer. That is the problem of the administration. That is the problem of the politicians that were in charge. I'm
Absolutely. And
channeling
that's
Mike
what I'm
here.
saying, right? That's what I'm saying. It's the system. It's the failure of the system. It's not the individual. And when you are the individual in the system, you have to behave as rest of them. Because this is not the first case. I don't know if you know about Martinez, Myanmar Martinez. Do you know do you know about this case?
I might know about the case. I might not
Yeah.
know the name. What happened?
So, Myanmar Martinez was driving in Chicago, warning Latino communities, not the criminals, but hardworking Latino communities, that ICE is in the town and they are coming. Well, ICE was behind her car. And do you know this story?
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah.
I believe I do know the story, but keep
Yeah,
going.
so what happened is they were kind of following her car, and they ended up, one of them aimed a rifle at her and shout like, "What are you gonna do?" or something. Let me actually get the quote here. "Do something, bitch," and then fires 5 times at her without a cause or a reason.
That was
Miraculously, yeah, miraculously she survives, and they go in. Obviously, there's a court case, and they try to say that she rammed their car, and her lawyers presented a video evidence that it's actually them who rammed her car.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Let me.
yeah,
Well, what I wanted to do is before I'm going to give my opinion on the ICE raids and stuff like that, but
yeah,
I break down this. There has to be a liaison between the rest of the world and street cops, and that's what I try to do. I am I'm not anti-government, but I'm very limited government.
yeah,
I do not enjoy the thought or the idea of any type of federal government in our U.S. city streets. However, here's what I say about law enforcement is that we are enforcers of social contract theory. If we were all to be in a tribe in a room, 12 of us, we are all going to either, whether we verbally state it or not, we are all going to come in agreements about things we can and cannot do as a tribe, as a group of people. Once someone violates that social contract theory, the tribe has appointed a person, a sheriff, a sheriff, a cop, a Bobby, whatever you want to call them. They have appointed them through elected officials, whether it be officials, whether it be a hired chief by an elected mayor, whether it be an elected sheriff. We are all extensions. Street cops are extensions of political figures that have been elected by the people. So we are extensions of the public. So you are right. If your home is burglarized, I owe it to you because you hired me. And I'm not trying to get into the whole I pay your taxes.
Yeah.
We
But
are
it's true.
extensions
I
of
mean,
the
it's a
people.
fact, right? So
We
the
are not
society, yeah,
we're not government stormtroopers. We're not.
right.
I always said I did not work for the government. I worked for the people. The
Absolutely.
government had to provide me to the people and pay my paycheck.
Absolutely. I agree. We don't disagree there. So what is your solution with ICE other than work with the local PD? And it's, politicalized for sure, but well, they're not going to do that. And we know that the country is divided and we're not going to solve this in a day. But what is your band-aid to the problem, temporary band-aid to the problem?
Well, unfortunately, I don't want to say we're too far gone, but we are now in it.
Yeah.
It will be a black eye to whatever political entity wants to claim this to be a success. But enforcing and excuse me, deploying federal troops, not troops, federal agents into cities to do what should be local law enforcement is
Absolutely.
only going to end in situations like this. They don't know how to do it. I did it every day for 9 years straight. I know every cop knows how to deal with a crowd to where you don't hurt them.
Yeah.
They are going to start outnumbering you. You have to back off. You cannot take innocent lives. You cannot injure people that you don't have to preserve your own life. So you cannot go in. It's like a numbers game we always talk about. You cannot go in undermanned. So when they go into a city block and they're outnumbered, I could go on forever. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, the solution is going to be that politics have to come into agreement to allow law enforcement at the local, state, and national level to work together and do their jobs. Federal agents do not have the training to be out there on the streets. Clearly, by these two instances we're talking about, they're not trained. So they
Right.
do the investigations. They have to entrust guys that have been out on these streets for years. They live there. These cops live in the area. They know. So, and I've said this, if Minneapolis police officers don't want to enforce it, that's them. They're an extension of the Minneapolis people. They went to
Right.
high school in Minneapolis. They
Right.
worked in grocery stores in Minneapolis. They might not want to
Yeah.
enforce this. And at the end of the day, if the law enforcement arm and local politicians and mayors don't want to do this,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Minneapolis problem at that
Yeah,
point.
but you have to also, well, it's not just Minneapolis. This happened in Chicago. So I think I have their argument as well. I'm gonna try to speak for them as well. You have American government where these two parties always play this game that one day something will change. It won't. We elect a president for is a temporary employee in the office for 4 years. They know nothing. It's always need to know basis. The same shit happens. He gets out, another puppet comes in, right? So with Trump, we thought it would be different. I supported him big time. I don't support his foreign policy at all now. I support him on some things, but I think overall MAGA was a disappointment to me personally. And a friend of mine, former CIA officer, told me this, and I think it's brilliant. He said, well, you have to remember MAGA was not formed by Trump. It was formed around him. So he's who he always was. It's just American people formed this MAGA around him, this idea that thinking that Trump was like that. I disagree. I don't think that Trump is MAGA anymore. I think Trump is more Israel than anything. But so right,
You're talking to the right people.
all right, and yeah, it's just. And another thing is, remember when he came out and said, "Oh, we have to import smart people in the country because Americans are too dumb to do this." Like, he got so much backlash on this. This is the president of the United States coming out and saying, the same guy who's doing all these ICE raids to kick off immigrants, that we have to import other immigrants, or nicer immigrants, that will take American jobs because Americans can't do it properly. Well, first and foremost, if your people can't do it properly, it's still your people. Teach them how to do it then, or educate them. You don't import. If your baby's dumb, you don't change your baby. You educate them, right? So that's how it works. But just imagine all these people watching this theater, and your president comes out and says, well, we're going to import other people, but kick out these poor Mexicans that are working, as hard as they can to do something in this country. But yeah, we're going to import like much smarter people to take over American jobs. I'm getting mixed messages here. I'm getting like, okay, what are we exactly doing? Like, how is this America first? Like, how are we helping American people with this? Like kicking one type of immigrants out and then importing another type? Like, what is going on there? What the fuck?
I don't know. Out of all the things he's said publicly, I don't think that's even the worst of it. But.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Well,
I mean,
okay. Let's give me
said some dumb
give me
things.
3 worst things that Trump said that you just like lost your mind over.
Oh boy.
And he said a lot of
Well,
stupid shit for sure.
I mean, it started to me like I started to realize this back in his first term
Mm-hmm.
when he said, "Why don't we just go in there and take the guns? Why are we even
Right.
having this conversation?" That was immediately like, "Hold on there, homeboy." Second of all, like the amount of time, effort, energy that is spent foreign policy wise supporting Israel, and I make a clear distinction between
So
Jewish
crazy.
people and Israel.
Very
And
different. Yes.
okay, so he and I fought in Iraq. Benjamin Netanyahu, on multiple occasions, wanted us to go into Iraq, and you can absolutely see how it destabilized the region. And he was still defending that, and is still defending foreign policy that benefits no one but Israel
Yeah.
because of the foreign policy that was executed by the United States military on behalf of Israel. You know, the Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu are very fond of saying things like, you don't have to defend Israel. Israel can defend itself. Okay, well, what airplane are you flying? You're flying an F-15. You're flying an F-18, right? You call it
How
something
much
else, but
money
that's
do you get and
right.
constantly
How much?
ask for from
How
us?
much? The bombs that are getting dropped in Gaza. How many of them were made in American factories?
Right.
The GPS guidance systems on your JDAMs, which you ran out of because you dropped so many into Gaza that leveled that place. Where did they come from? They came from the United States. Those things are the problems that I have with the current Trump administration as far
100%.
as foreign policy. So that is where I that's near and dear to my heart because I do not want my children to have to go fight in a war and die in it and watch their friends die like we had to do because of
So that
foreign
Netanyahu
intervention by
can come
Israel.
out. Yeah, so that Netanyahu can come out and say, well, Israel is a democratic place and, we've got all shit together. Yeah, sure. So, yeah, absolutely agree with you there. How do you like Syrian terrorists that we fought
Yeah.
for years and killed American
Yeah.
soldiers? And now he's like, he gets in a nice suit and, attends all these UN meetings or whatever. And like, what?
Well, one of the things that Colin Powell said, which was really, I think, really poignant to me, is that when you are at these upper echelons of politics and foreign policy, you have to shake hands with a lot of pigs. And I mean, there's plenty of times where these people get a vote on what kind of country they want to, and they may vote with the ballot or they may vote with a gun, but we don't get to decide that. And people
Exactly.
like Tulsi Gabbard, who have said the regime change operations are a problem, that is still something that I have a problem with personally, and I hope that she's in his ear saying like, "Hey, we can't do this." But Syria voted with the gun. And
Of
I mean,
course.
what do we want to go in there and deal with that? Because I fought a war in the desert for a very long time, and we have very little to show for it except a bunch of my dead friends.
Yeah. And
So,
we helped Syria vote with the gun, actually. So
and
we
we
were the
did. You're
ones,
absolutely correct.
to overthrow Assad regime, who was actually much better than the psycho that's sitting there right now. So, yeah. And I don't think American people realize this. I always say this. Russia and American people, for example, have the same enemy, and it's called the American deep state. Because what you see right now, Tyler, like in the streets, when we talk about ICE and turning, like this terrorism that we put out there for the longest time, with that it was Vietnam going in on a lie, complete lie, by the way, with that it was Iraq and weapons of mass destruction, with that it was Libya, with that it was NATO bombing Serbia for absolutely no ground, no reason. right? So
Right.
all of this, we exported so much terror out there, and Americans were sitting at home eating Cheetos and thinking, well, at least it's not us, so why should we care if our leaders are fucking up other places? We probably shouldn't care. Let's move on. They were propagandized with Hollywood, whatever. And now we are seeing that terror turn inward, where people cannot afford a house. Like they are in their 40s and they cannot afford a house. They cannot afford a nice car. They cannot afford to live in a decent human life with a decent human life. That terror turned inward now. And if we stopped it, then we wouldn't have so much money flowing in the corporate world that destabilized the Latin America by overthrowing Allende and similar leaders and getting more powerful. If we stopped it on time, which many whistleblowers, again, from the CIA and other places, including Church Committee not so long ago, they warned us, like, it's us. Let's stop this right here. Let's kill it right here before it gets too powerful by fucking up other countries and getting their resources and then using the money against us to enslave us at home.
I think
No
we're in
one
violent
did.
agreement. I think we're
Yeah.
in violent
Man,
agreement.
you should come on our show.
Yeah, you should come on our show.
I would love to.
Or
Absolutely.
actually, I would like to have you on my show. I want to talk to her on the Shadowcast.
Absolutely. I would love to. How
Actually,
do we,
I've been pretty much spot on for the last 3 months about what was going on in Venezuela, but nobody
awesome.
listens.
Go for it. Tell me what your predictions are. What's going to
So,
go down now?
so my role on this podcast is to very much be the one that understands the foreign policy and the current events outside the
Amazing.
United States.
Mhm.
And my background, I have a human intelligence network. I have contacts just like you do in the intelligence community, and so I have a lot of capabilities there. And then, of course, you have the open source intelligence networks that are available to all of us. You want me to talk about Venezuela specifically? A blind man saw that something was coming. There was just too much combat power located in the region for it not to be. What we did not expect, and what none of us, and nobody in the intelligence community knew unless they were read in and they were in the Pentagon or over there at Langley, nobody knew or understood was that this whole plan was going to be a raid. And by military definition, a raid is a planned attack with a planned withdrawal. We're going in, we're doing certain things, and we're leaving. And everything was focused towards protect the raid force and move the raid force in and out of the target as quickly and expeditiously as possible with the least amount of lives lost and the least amount of collateral damage done. And you can see that by the very targeted strikes that were done. Now, what I believe was hoped for was that this decapitation, we in the military community, we call it capture or kill, CK missions, right? This decapitation, capture mission would send a message to the rest of Latin America, which, you are from Europe. In Europe, they are not surrounded by the amount of hostiles that, or at least not hostile, but very much have very differing points of view and different foreign policy objectives.
Yeah.
The United States absolutely is thinking about what Xi Jinping said. In 2028, we're going to have a war with the United States, which means that if we're going to do that, we have to have complete hegemony on the Western Hemisphere. We cannot allow Russia, we cannot allow China to have a deep water port and access, a couple of 100 miles from the Panama Canal and a few, maybe 1,000 miles from strategic targets within the United States. And oh,
Right.
by the way, the oil that has to now flows to a potential adversary, an adversary, by the way, that said that they have said they are going to fight us. We did not say that. So creating
One thing, and I
yeah.
will totally let you continue. They said it
Yeah.
in almost like a retaliation. So it was U.S. sanctions and U.S. Behavior that caused that. I'll explain that in a second. But yes, I agree with you. We should control our hemisphere. We are, an empire after all. But with that, you have to respect international rules as well. Otherwise, everyone disrespects you and you have zero friends. And you do not want to be in that game. Here's the difference between what the US does and what China and Russia do. And Russia is a little bit different than China. I really don't like China. I don't trust them. Russia's a different case. I actually trust Russia. I think they've been mistreated big time. Like President Trump came out 2 days ago when Maduro thing happened and said a very interesting thing. He said, well, if you want to know how this is America first, we want good neighbors around us. And that's why it's America first. A journalist asked, well, how is this America first, sir? And he said, well, because we want good neighbors around us. Well, Russia does too. How about that? Russia wants good neighbors around Russia. So when we meddled in Ukraine and overthrew Yanukovych, not just once, but we meddled twice and overthrew two different leaders. So when that happened, Russia has the same right to do exact same thing. They were, hey, for 14 years, we talked about this. We gave you a chance to actually be a decent superpower.
We're in violent agreement on that one as well. The foreign policy decisions that were made by Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration, especially into Ukraine itself. I mean, Bush as well, but I mean, if we're going to go talk about Bush, we should really talk about the hundreds of thousands of people that died in Iraq and Afghanistan. So I won't say that I supported Russia. I'll never come out. I think Vladimir Putin is a Bond level villain, in my opinion. He's petting his Persian cat. I might be wrong, but I'll die on that hill, ma'am.
No, what do you know about Vladimir Putin, though? This is what people keep saying. Like, not to divert this podcast anywhere else.
Yeah, let's not go too far.
Yeah, but it's just crazy to me. I bet you don't know anything about Vladimir Putin. I grew up watching him. I know everything about Vladimir Putin. Why don't you ask me?
Yes, of course.
What makes him a villain? What makes him a villain?
He was a KGB agent for how long? No. You don't get to walk around that one. You don't.
Oh, no. Let's actually discuss this. KGB agent.
Yeah.
So John Kiriakou was a CIA agent. He's the nicest fucking guy on earth. So what makes CIA? What makes CIA better than KGB?
I didn't sit here and defend CIA. I did not.
Okay, well, John Kiriakou, one of my best friends, and a very famous individual.
To be fair, if you told me our American president was a CIA agent for 20 years, I'd be like, I don't trust that guy.
Yeah, Bush was. Bush was.
Yeah, and look where it got us.
Demonize the guy. I'm sorry, but to demonize the guy because he worked for KGB is very, very wrong.
Let me go ahead and put it this way then.
Okay.
I don't mean in the fact that like he's petting his Persian cat and plotting world takeover. That is not what I mean. What I mean is that gentleman survived in the intelligence world during the Cold War when it was a very, very dangerous place.
He didn't survive. Actually, he lost his job. Sorry, but that's not true. From the get-go, you're wrong. He didn't survive.
Okay.
If you knew anything about Vladimir Putin, again, ask me. I studied the guy forever. So he didn't survive. He lost his job. He went to St. Petersburg, and he started working as a professor. So actually, professor's assistant. He was not even a professor. He was a professor's assistant. His family lived in absolute poverty growing up. Again, people in America have no clue who Vladimir Putin is, and they are so eager to demonize this guy. Not only this is the guy who took the reins of Russia even though he didn't want it. Again, he never wanted to be the president, and he was kind of forced into it. What happened?
I'm getting cooked. I'm good with it. And here's my issue with this. Okay, is that first of all, you're tarring and feathering. Well, let me back that up. You're painting us in the light of the uneducated American who watches propaganda.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
not.
not.
That is not who we are.
Oh, absolutely. We agree already. Like, how long have we been doing this? Like half an hour? We agreed on most things. You are not. If you were uneducated, you wouldn't even be in my show. The reason you're in my show is because I like you. But that goes to show how propagandized Americans are, though, right? Because you still don't know Vladimir Putin, but you are eager to demonize him. You really don't know the guy.
I am not eager to demonize anybody. In fact, I've been on this show saying more than once, he had an absolute reason to go in there. If somebody had done that on our doorstep, we would have done the same thing, and we would have done it a hell of a lot faster.
Yeah,
I think I can find that clip for you.
Just like Tyler schooled me on the police business, right? Which I agree with him. I never saw that argument before, and I think he was spot on, right? Why? Because he was part of the system. He knows more than me when it gets to cops. We agreed. We move on. But something about Vladimir Putin is something that I really know more than most people. So we can learn from it, or we can argue.
I know more than you. Yeah, I'm fond of saying in a lot of cases I know more than you. I'm happy to be schooled on it. One of the things that I will tell you is that it is very, very difficult to get information that, because everything looks like propaganda. I can look at the information that I get from the legacy media and go, that sounds like propaganda to me. I'm not listening to it.
Yeah.
But then I can't also go do that with, RT or anything else, because a lot of that looks like propaganda too.
I never listened to RT, but I respect them.
But yeah, my bottom line for me is this: whether I like it or not, he is a strategic adversary. Now, we can argue about the points of why, but he is. And I personally am not a big fan of us supporting Ukraine and sending them thousands, millions, and billions of dollars and having nothing to show for it. What I would really like is for everybody to stop fighting.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that are the things that I care about most are infantrymen who are. Yeah.
I will say this as somebody that does not get into geopolitics or follow any type of foreign politics. No one could ever answer my question as to why we cared about Ukraine. We don't care about any other country the size of Ukraine. Why did we all of a sudden have flags, stickers, and hats and T-shirts made?
So true.
That was just me.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, we're pretty middle of the road here. So I can't look at information on Vladimir Putin. I did not grow up in the Middle East, or not the Middle East. I did not grow up in this former
Eastern
Soviet
Europe.
bloc.
Eastern Europe.
I did not grow up in the former Soviet bloc or Eastern Europe. My father did patrol the East-West German border during the Cold War. That is the extent of what I know about the Soviet Union.
Right.
And as a person that grew up with and remembers the Soviet Union being the bad guys, it is very easy for me to go, he's an extension of the Soviet Empire. Now I still can look at that and go, I still totally understand why he went into Ukraine.
Yeah. He's nothing like that. He's not an extension of Soviet Empire. In fact, he's very Western. He's probably the most 100%. He's probably the most moderate reader. He's complete capitalist. He turned Russia into capitalism. Again, this is so interesting for me. Let me tell you something about Vladimir Putin, okay? I remember his first day and how different he was.
I would have said you were from Belarus, but by your accent.
No. I'm from Georgia, which is that's whole another.
Yeah, I know it's
we are
another
not
country.
We are not going to go into that. Yeah, but so Vladimir Putin comes to power in Russia. Let me give you a nutshell understanding who this guy is. He kind of was forced into it, quite honestly. I can tell you the whole story, but he's a mentor, Sobchak, who was first mayor of St. Petersburg, was the most democratic guy ever. He was the Western type of individual, right? Oh my gosh, we got to be friends with Americans. This is great. Putin was one of them. So Putin was his right hand. And they started kind of rehabilitating Russia into being friends with West and all of that. Very, very soon, Sobchak learned the hard way that this whole facade that Bush Sr. created for Russia was just that, facade. So they promised friendship, no NATO advancement, no nothing. And all of a sudden, Russians found out that that's not the game at all. What Americans wanted is their resources, division. They took territories away from them. They aided Georgia to conduct a civil war and become an independent entity. All of that behind the scenes is going on, and Russians are slowly understanding that they got duped. And
I'm gonna go off script and go on to our script for a second. You can't say that because you are a Russian sympathizer.
That's right. I'm a Russian puppet. So anyway.
Yes.
And here's what I'm going to say.
I know.
Yeah, and here's why that argument won't hold up, and they can't call me that. Usually they try, but then they hear that I'm from Georgia, and they're like, "Fuck, now we don't have a case."
Yeah.
Right? Long story short, Russia goes into absolute chaos because of the actions of Gorbachev and the West. And what they did is they picked their favorites, oligarchs that we all talk about. Putin didn't bring them in power. They came first in power in Russia. Putin put them under control. That's the biggest difference. So who created these oligarchs, you might ask? Well, it was the Western corporations. They were the ones who handpicked some narcissistic, crazy individuals and said, you and your family will be untouchable, but you have to divide Russia, you have to prioritize the wealth, and you have to give it to us. Pretty much what we are doing right now in Venezuela. We control their oil, blah, 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 blah. The same shit, right? The difference is Russia is an empire. It's not Venezuela. It's not some, it's not Iraq. It's a whole different game when you do that to Russia. So what happened is people were literally looking for food in dumpsters. That's where Russia was. And Yeltsin, realizing this, he looked at the competitor, which is the United States. Then we bombed Serbia, and he got an awakening that, oh, these are not my friends. All these promises are bullshit. We're not going to get any of this shit. But am I able to fight these guys? He's in like late 60s or 70s. So he makes a decision that he needs somebody in power who's strong, who's going to put this mother effers, the oligarchs under control that are sucking on Russian wealth and giving it away. And the only person who could do that was Vladimir Putin. And how he knew that is what happened with Sobchak, which I'm not going to go to. Maybe in your podcast I can break this down. But long story short, he stayed loyal when they almost killed Sobchak. He got Sobchak to escape in France, in Europe. So Putin did all these things right, and that gave Yeltsin kind of an idea that, okay, this guy not only can be trusted, but he's also got brains on him. And he can actually assert some control here. So he literally, there was no elections of any kind that was real. He literally put Putin in power. Putin completely changes entire Russia and gives dignity to the country. Where they were looking for food in the dumpster, all of a sudden Russia becomes a distant but a third superpower.
First of all, what I found about this is that my education on Putin is woefully inadequate to fence with you on this currently, but I will change that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Love it.
So I'm going to go ahead and concede that point because you've made it very eloquently, and I don't have enough. I don't deal in. I don't deal in gut feelings. I deal in facts. So whatever I can prove, and if I don't know, I have to look at you and say I don't know, and which is pretty rare, by the way. I'm almost never that guy, but today I am, and I'm happy to have it.
I was gonna say, Jimmy. I would label it Jimmy works for the Russian government now. He's been honeypotted.
Yeah, honeypotted.
I can't argue with you on that point, and I have already conceded some of these points on Russia as far as their expansionist, and we won't call it expansionist, but the way that they moved into Ukraine, and which is really hard for us because we know some of the guys that are fighting for Ukraine.
Those are which is very sad.
Former American soldiers, one of whom may be dead now because we haven't been able to get in touch with him since the 20th of December.
That's crazy.
So when I look at things like Eastern Europe, and you can go, okay, it started under George H.W. Bush, right? It went in under Clinton. It continued under George W. Bush, and it continued and ramped up in 2014 under the Obama administration. Then there's a common thread, and it has to do with the political ruling class of the United States, less the political will of a specific party. Am I making sense here? I feel like I'm okay.
Yeah.
So when we look at that, we have to then ask the question, who are the beneficiaries of this? And in my mind, you're asking the wrong questions when you ask about the political side of it, and you need to look directly at Lockheed Martin and Raytheon.
100%.
Okay.
We agree.
This is
world,
absolutely
military.
about the military-industrial complex, the MIC. It always has been. It always will be. The MIC aligns with Israel because Israel drops a lot of their bombs and flies a lot of their planes.
And the intelligence. Let's not leave the fuckers out.
And no, let's not leave out the intelligence community either. But let's make sure that we delineate between the intelligence community on the CIA, NSA side, and the military intelligence community, which has a specific and very different
job.
Know
that the CIA now literally employs former SEALs, especially SEAL Team 6, practically works for them now. So
I'm very listen, you're not going to find I'm actually getting ready to do a podcast about Operation Red Wings, which I'm assuming you know a little bit about. I'm not the biggest fan of most people in the SEAL teams in general, mostly because now I have some friends that are SEALs, some of the guys that I work with that are fantastic operators and fantastic people. But for the most part, I have found the SEAL teams in general to be very bad at planning, to be very much people that drink their own Kool-Aid. And then
Oh,
when a gunfight
absolutely.
starts, they need the Army and the Marine Corps to pull them out of a bad situation.
So true.
The CIA employing SEALs means zero to me.
Oh no, it's just something that
They're
they have
starting
in
a
common, right?
podcast, and
Yeah.
Sean Ryan, I mean, the man worked for the CIA and came out of nowhere on the podcast sphere. I'm not convinced that he's not at least on some level an asset of the intelligence community
Really?
writ large.
Oh my gosh, talk to me about this. So you're talking about
Well,
Sean Ryan?
this is this is a theory, okay? And
No,
I'm
of
not,
course, yeah, we're not proof.
but
You gotta-
we
you
don't
gotta
want to
say
get
allegedly,
sued
you'll
that
get
we are.
sued.
yeah, I
Yeah.
remember we're getting sued by Rob O'Neill. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of that or not.
Rob O'Neill is a moron. Sorry.
Rob O'Neill sued us for basically saying you did not do, like, your story changed several times. You did not do what you're claiming to do. And and the reason why we know that is because your story changed so many times.
Could you walk
And
my audience? Like, I'm sure your audience knows this because you guys do this military stuff all the time. Mine is political. So could you walk through what the heck happened with Rob O'Neill and I think Bissonette or what's the other guy who
Bissonette.
Bassinet, yeah, Matt. So I spoke to SEALs about this, and the camp actually divides on this. Like I said, I know a lot of SEALs. So some people support Rob, some people support Matt, and I just can't understand what the fuck is going on. So tell me what happened here. So how
Well,
did
first
Rob
off,
O'Neill? Yeah.
I would like a list of SEALs who agree with Rob O'Neill because I haven't found one yet. The only
Neither am
person
I.
that cares about who shot Osama bin Laden is Rob O'Neill. He's the only one.
Right.
So what happened was 2023
Yeah,
to the 2023, a Delta Force guy came on the Anti-Hero podcast and said, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but Rob O'Neill didn't kill Osama bin Laden." And I was like, "What? No way!" And I clipped it, and on every platform it reached 1 million views. So then that Delta Force operator had to come back on, and he did an entire "How Rob O'Neill is Lying" episode where he went through factual things and let the audience put it together for themselves. Now, this is all secondhand information that was given to him by people that were there, by people that knew how the team operated, by people in the community, by journalists. This was all provided to him. So there's no way it's libel at all. It's no way it's anything like that. Then Rob O'Neill waits 2 years. 2 years to this said Delta Force operator then said, "Well, Rob must be lying because if not, he would have sued me by now." Rob then put in a lawsuit for the Anti-Hero podcast and is now suing for defamation. So it's the most wild, wacky, bizarre thing I've ever heard because Rob O'Neill clearly did that to get back in the limelight because you know what? Everybody forgot about that whole thing. It's just like Tim Kennedy. You listen to your publicist, you go away for 6 months, you do some charity.
Such a psycho, Tim Kennedy.
You-
Oh my
you
God,
come
what
back.
a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. So yeah, you go to Ukraine, you fake like fighting the war, and you come back, and your publicist puts you. Is that what it is?
No, I'm just saying, yeah, if Tim Kennedy, when he got called out, I mean, it's clear as day. You messed up really bad, dude. You made a bunch of lies. You made everything about yourself. Go away. Like, go away for 6 months. Get off the internet.
Yes.
Get off the internet.
Yeah.
Go build your resume back up. Come back in a very nice, humble tone. The rest of the world moves on. It moves on. And what Rob O'Neill did was it all went away. His whole fraudulent claim of killing Osama bin Laden went away. No one cared anymore. Rob brought it back in the limelight, trying to stay in the limelight in some weird way. He decided to bring it back with a lawsuit. That's not good. I mean, it's frivolous. It's the most frivolous lawsuit I've ever seen. So
Wow. And okay, who shot bin Laden then? Tell us.
a lot of people say it was an operator named Red. A lot of people do know his identity. However, out of professional courtesy, they will not publicly say it. You probably could get that name if you just asked around a couple people could get it to you. We don't particularly care because, but all we said was, from what we heard from the rest of the world, Rob O'Neill did not kill Osama bin Laden. We just put it out there. So
I mean, I found out about Rob O'Neill and that what he was saying might be fraudulent. When I was a contractor for a Department of State, and one of the guys who was teaching me how to be a contractor was from the SEAL teams, and he's still operational now. And he was like, dude, that did not happen that way. And just sort of walked me through it. Like, dude, you've cleared rooms. Does that sound like how you would clear a room? No. Okay. That should tell you everything you need to know. And the really, I mean, I have to make this about me and the Anti-Hero podcast. I've got to bring it full circle, which is I had nothing to do. I was not a part of the podcast in 2023 when this came out, but I am named in the lawsuit specifically by name. I did nothing. The other co-host of the Anti-Hero broadcast, Mike, he was not sued. And the only reason I was sued, and this is my opinion, was that I cut a reel because, and this is what the podcast is about. There is the tip of the spear, right? The soft bro, special operations guys who tell the same fucking regurgitated war stories over and over and over again
and again,
and go on this podcast circuit and sell their books. When the rest of the military, guys like us, were out there for 12, 15, 18 months at a time, going out into sector, getting blown up in large numbers. And when you look at the numbers of casualties, KIAs, for the global war on terror, 99% of them were the guys like us. That's where the whole 99% comes from.
Right.
We're those guys. And so I cut a reel saying, hey, dude, because Rob came at us and said, hey, you need to shut the fuck up. Literally said that. Shut the fuck up. The operators are talking because we're just regular guys. And I told him to go fuck himself, specifically.
Good for you. Good for you.
And then I got named in this lawsuit after I had been on the show, 3 weeks?
Not even.
Not even 3 weeks, as a full-time co-host. And that for us is why we, the podcast, exist.
Let me tell you, dude, I'm telling you right now, I know this sphere. I know this game. The soft community has had their run.
Right.
What people were looking for a few years ago were awesome stories. What they want now is truth and transparency.
So
and
true.
unfortunately, all of those guys that have put themselves in those crosshairs with those stories are now subject to the truth and transparency. Not saying they all lied by any means. I'm just saying now they're all going to be subject to what the people want now. What the people also are realizing now is that listening to grown men fight and bicker over when they shed blood together overseas, and then they act like divas, they act like women,
Mean girls.
Yeah, none of the rest of the military wants to see or hear that. We're sick of it. Everybody's sick of it. I'm sick of it. Jimmy's sick of it. The rest of our listeners or support groups are sick of it. They just live in their own little bubble, and their only supporters are people that have never served a day in their life. They
true.
envision themselves in the military, and if I was going to join the military, I would be that guy. No, you wouldn't. You didn't even join, period, because you're too fat and you don't have enough discipline to actually don a flag and serve your community or serve your country. So that's what we stand for.
Yeah.
I like you guys. I do. I did not expect to like you this much.
Well, I mean,
It's awesome.
here's the thing. The other part of this too, and I hope you fucking clip this because this is really important.
Yeah.
The soft bro influencers like Rob O'Neill, imagine that they think that they somehow speak for the majority of combat veterans of the global war on terror. The majority of combat veterans from the global war on terror don't know, and they don't give a flying fuck about Rob O'Neill, what he says, what he did, the secret missions he went on, because most of us are like, dude, I did that mission 15 times over and I'll never get, half the credit these guys did. And oh, by the way, there was a huge gunfight, but nobody talks about it because we weren't the Navy SEALs doing it. They do not speak for the veteran community, nor do they speak to the veteran community. And that is very, very important.
So
Sorry.
important. Well, no, that was awesome. All right. Well, Rob O'Neill understood, and I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I never liked Rob. I think he was an arrogant, excuse my language. So,
Yeah.
But let's move on to Dan Crenshaw, another arrogant asshole.
That one's on you, brother.
Dan Crenshaw. So we
yeah.
saw Sean Ryan and Dan Crenshaw's feud, and I want your opinions on that.
Can we talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk. I have not really talked about this in any.
Hmm.
Um, so we had Dan Crenshaw on remotely like this, where we interviewed him. We are really, really, really good friends and loyal friends of Eddie Gallagher. He gave us our one up. He came on when nobody cared about us. He
Hmm.
was our first big guest, and he's been a friend ever since. They hate each other, and Eddie wants to just sit down with him remote. It doesn't matter. Eddie wants to see him face to face and ask, "Why did you keep me in prison?"
Hmm.
uh, Dan won't meet him face to face, even like this. Dan will not talk to him. So, and out of respect for Eddie, we don't really have a very strong relationship with Dan. We did have him on who let him explain why he's so hated by the veteran community and why he's really just hated by everybody. I really don't know of one person that goes, "I like Dan Crenshaw." So usually there's at least a big pocket of people that will support somebody. Rob O'Neill has a big pocket of supporters. Tim Kennedy has a big pocket of supporters. I
Still,
don't know of any Dan
hold on.
Crenshaw
Tim
supporters.
still has supporters after all that bullshit that he was
Oh yeah.
exposed to.
Yeah, they're called SF fanboys.
Wow.
They love special forces dudes, and there's no change in their mind because they never went overseas, so they don't see the issues of lying like
Right.
that. Saying
Right.
you have valorous awards when you don't. Jimmy's got 3 friends tattooed on his arm who fucking died over there,
Hmm.
And
and
I never forgot their names, by the way.
and Tim Kennedy's out here saying he got awards for valor. So it really rubs veterans the wrong way. But civilians don't care because they didn't
Yeah.
have anything
They
to
don't
shed
know.
over there. They didn't lose anything. So yeah, Dan Crenshaw, he did reach back out to us.
Right
And
after the Mexico thing.
he said, I really want to drive the final nail in Eddie Gallagher's coffin, which already we're like, that's not good because Eddie Gallagher's our friend. We're not gonna. And second, he said, and I'm sure you guys want to know about what happened in Mexico. And I'm like, I have no idea what happened in Mexico.
Yeah,
And
yeah, he looked at me and I was like, yeah, I kind of know.
but at the end of the day, it didn't make sense. Obviously, a platform like Sean Ryan can literally have Satan himself on there, and no one will really bat an eye because Sean has that Joe Rogan level where
Yeah.
Sean can really do no wrong. And this is just reality, if our broadcast had on Dan Crenshaw, we would receive more hate and it would actually hurt our platform rather than help it. Obviously, we could get some virality out of it, but at the end of the day, people are like, Sean Ryan is blessed to do whoever he wants on. Bad, good, evil, the
Yeah.
other side of the aisle. The anti-hero broadcast just doesn't have that notoriety yet.
That's
It
right.
didn't make sense and it wasn't a good business decision. And plus, I think we were one of the only podcasts that would have said yes at the time. So that's why he asked us.
No, absolutely. So you said something about Sean Ryan and the CIA or something? Like,
Well,
did I misunderstand that?
So Sean Ryan worked for the Central Intelligence
Yeah.
Agency. I mean that's not that's not subjection, or that's not
Mm.
conjecture. That's a fact. He said it many times.
Got to say allegedly.
Yeah, we have to say allegedly on this. Or if we're on the show, we'll say,
You
okay,
don't want
guys, everybody
another
put
lawsuit.
yeah,
Yeah.
put on your. I mean,
We
we're
all
not.
have the same lawyer.
We all have the same lawyer, so I mean, it'd be kind of hard.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with that. It has much more to do with and again, Sean has publicly talked about this himself and said, people think I'm a CIA asset, but I'm not. And here's my proof that I had somebody who I thought was a CIA asset, and I didn't even air the broadcast. I look at that and go,
That's exactly what a CIA asset would say.
I mean, that's exactly what you would say. So let me get this straight. You worked for the CIA. You went on Megyn Kelly's show and said you made a lot of money selling cocaine. That happened. That you can go find that. Well, I'll go do the research for you, but you got to pay me. So
Yeah. So he said that then?
yeah, so he made all this money. He did all this work for the Central Intelligence Agency. Out of nowhere, he becomes the premier military podcaster on the planet. How? We have been doing this. Tyler, I know how hard this guy works. I'm sure you work just as hard. It is so hard to break into that market, get what you need to get the
agree.
people you want. And out of nowhere, how? Well, you
Yeah.
have to have infrastructure in place. You didn't start it up in your basement or on your
Right.
attic like you said you did. That defies.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion. That defies credibility. I think about how does this work? circumstantial evidence. But when you have this much circumstantial evidence going together,
Right.
I mean, to me, the long pole in the tent is you don't become the sensation that you are overnight without a whole lot of help
Right.
and backing. And specifically, as well as I do, you need to have people up there in Meta who are driving it. And I can tell you the
Excellent.
first episode that Sean Ryan did, because it came across my feed, because Meta knows who the hell I am. They know what I'm about. They know what I look for. They know my background, and they threw that right in there on day one.
Wow.
And so you can look at that as a veteran, but also somebody that, is in this space and go, that does not happen by, accident. That was somebody who had the capability to drive the algorithm. And if there's anybody that does, it is definitely the NSA, the CIA, and organizations like that have a narrative to drive here within the United States.
So what is the purpose of putting Sean where he is so one day he can drive the crowd, this sane crowd who's, actually pro-American, good and all that, like, the real thinkers, to drive them into some weird corner or propaganda, or what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, if we said anything right now that opposed Sean Ryan,
You would be
a lot of
buried.
people,
You would be
a
buried.
lot, yeah, we would,
Right.
and not even let's just say Sean didn't care. All of his supporters would be like, "You're wrong. Sean's right," because he's Sean Ryan. He is who he
Yeah.
is. He's got a lot of influence.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say that that he got lucky. He asked a couple buddies to come on, tell their life stories. He did it very business oriented.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's like he said, the amount of effort that went on the back end to get a Joe Rogan's been podcasting since podcasting wasn't even a thing.
Right.
That makes sense. He was like literally one of the first podcasters. That makes sense. His growth and his drive and his status. I mean, he was on sitcoms. He was a UFC commentator. Like, all of these things make sense for his podcast to be the number one, number two behind him.
Yeah.
Sean
But no
Ryan
one
started
knows
what,
Sean Ryan. Nobody
3 years
knew.
ago?
Yeah. And I mean, even when you look in the world of like sports entertainment media, Pat McAfee is my favorite, right? And he's a Barstool Sports, guy, right? When you look at those guys, you look at where they started. You
20
look
years ago.
20 years ago. Pat McAfee stopped kicking footballs in 2015, 2016, somewhere in there, and went in and podcasted from a house that was haunted for a while. I mean, like, and
Cool.
it took a very long time for him to get where he is, to where he could tell
right.
Bob Iger to go fuck off now, because he's that big. But he started slow and he started small. That is not the growth that you see with Sean Ryan. That's
I
not the
agree.
growth that you see with anybody who gets into this space, and you know that as well as we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, he just showed up, which is crazy. But interesting take, guys. All right, well, we kind of are out of time here, but I do want you to tell my audience where to find your podcast. I know you're on YouTube, but all the stuff that you want to plug in, please do. We need more sane voices out there.
Yeah. Well, our YouTube channel is the Anti-Hero Broadcast. We broadcast live every day, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, X, Facebook, and I think we're going to try TikTok. But we're on all the major platforms: TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, we're on it. And we're obviously on Spotify, Apple Music, and stuff like that. And the episodes are usually uploaded about an hour to 2 hours after we go live. So that's where you find us. And we're open to discussion, but unfortunately in today's climate, not a lot of people want to discuss things.
I know. Well, thank you so much for coming. I enjoyed this a lot. So we should do this again sometime.
Yes, ma'am. You come on our show.
Absolutely, anytime.